Well, a good Sunday to you. Thanks for finding us here at Fox 26. I'm meteorologist John Dawson. This is our tropical update. Glad you're here. Glad you want to know more details about what's happening out in the tropics. Today we're focusing on the Atlantic Basin, where we've had a little bit of a quiet stretch here. You know, we've always talked about September the 10th being the peak of hurricane season. Well, that kind of came and went quietly, and no complaints. Not going to have a problem with that, but there is certainly some things to keep an eye on. We'll sort of continue to update you on everything. But let me just start by saying the Gulf is very quiet. Kind of ridiculously quiet, and it's also very, very warm. The sea surface temperatures are some of the hottest that we have on record, so we're very hopeful that nothing ends up in the Gulf, because if it does, it's probably going to grow into something pretty big, pretty quick. Not saying necessarily where it's going, but just that idea is something that we're going to have to kind of keep in mind as we move through the remainder of the hurricane season, because those waters, they don't cool down quickly. It takes a while for that. Also in the Caribbean, we're looking at a quiet area, so that's all good as well. It's out in the Atlantic, the tropical portions of it, down to the southern latitudes, where we're continuing to keep an eye on things. And that's pretty much expected for this time of the year. We've got those storm systems that roll off of the African coast. They kind of transfer into a tropical wave and kind of a disorganized mess of some storms, eventually trying to get itself organized. And that's what we have right here with this particular system that is a tropical wave, again, in the lower latitudes of the Atlantic. And right now, and really for the next 24 to 36 hours, it's going to be sort of struggling with some drier air. It's going to keep it from growing stronger and more organized. If something like this were in the Gulf, they would have no problems developing into a tropical cyclone. But the dry air that's out here, not quite as warm as what we've got in the Gulf. We're going to continue to see this moving to the west, northwest just a little bit. And eventually, though, it'll get into some slightly more favorable conditions. So over the next 2 days, the National Hurricane Center only gives it a 20% chance that it could develop into a tropical system. But when you extend that into that 3 to 7 day focus, then we're looking at a 70% chance that this would develop into a tropical system. Clearly, a tropical depression is easily obtainable from what we've seen right so far, and possibly even something larger and stronger and more organized. So we show this in our GFS modeling, sort of, again, a little bit of a mess here to begin with for the next couple of days. But as we get a little bit further down the line, you'll notice that we get this tighter rotation developing. Our winds becoming much more concise into one location, that low pressure deepening, and that just gives it all more organization and indications that this would become a tropical cyclone. Now, this is all the way now 7 days down the line here, so this is quite a bit of time from now, but we do expect with some time that it would develop into something a lot more organized. Still having to manage with some drier air. And yesterday, I've talked about the dust that's out there. Still some dust that's kind of getting wrangled around just a little bit that has to kind of be managed. The August dust has sort of lingered into September a little bit longer than usual, and that's something that it's going to have to sort of fight its way through as well. Next name on the list, Gabrielle. It seems like we've been talking about Gabrielle for a long time. We haven't had a chance to use the name yet because we've just had some tropical waves that we've been following. Again, not complaining. I like it when we don't have a lot of activity, but what activity we do have, I like it when it stays out into the Atlantic. That's kind of the trend here. Not a done deal. Obviously, nothing's formed, but that's kind of what the trends are, at least keeping it in the Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf, not necessarily where we're looking for this particular system to track at the moment. But we'll be here every day of the hurricane season, keeping you updated on that particular tropical wave and anything else that's in the developments as we move down the line. We'll expect to see you back here tomorrow with the latest.